Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the next podcast in the Social Distancing Zoologist in Conversation series, where I'm talking to conservationists and wildlife enthusiasts who are really passionate about what they do. My guest today is Rhia Chapple. Rhia completed a BSc in Geography and an MSc in Environmental Dynamics and Climate Change at Swansea University, which gave her a wider understanding of the natural world and covered a variety of topics on everything from geology to ecology. She now works as a graduate environment consultant and enjoys studying the wildlife she finds at home. Today, she's going to be talking about wildlife ponds and some of the amazing creatures she's found in her garden pond. Good morning, Rhia.
Good morning, Rob.
So I think my first question for you today is, how is nature helping you through the current lockdown?
It's definitely providing a source of entertainment. It's great to just watch them out of the window and just kind of see what species are arriving.
So wildlife ponds specifically, I wonder if you could tell us, first of all, why they're so good for wildlife?
So ponds are really important. They provide such a diverse range of habitats, and especially with like large-scale habitat loss in the UK, they can provide a really important sort of little safe haven for animals. And it's just the biodiversity that they can offer. So, they service insects, amphibians, birds, mammals. So they are really important.
We've got some images here of your pond. How long have you had it, and how long did it take wildlife to sort of really arrive at it?
Well, I think my dad built it around 2007, so quite a long time now. And he built it in the spring, and by the summer, the birds, lots of insect activity and everything were happening, and we saw the odd frog. And the following spring, we actually had frog spawn and the tadpoles. So it was, within a year, it was really up and running, and there was lots of activity there. So it was good to see.
I think we've got some footage of various things in your pond. It's fair to say you've had some pretty cool things turning up.
Yeah.
Shall we start with mammals?
Yeah, so we've seen hedgehogs visit the pond, and we got a trail cam a couple of years ago, actually because all the fish kept disappearing. And we had a heron in the past, but my dad was fairly confident that he wasn't back. And we found scat, and I started to wonder if it was an otter, but it did sound quite unlikely because it's not a huge pond and we don't really have any big rivers close by. But through more research and things, we were kind of fairly certain. So we got a trail cam, and we actually caught a few videos where the otter is hunting for the fish.
That's really cool. So have you noticed from the trail cams how the otters are adapted for getting the fish out of the ponds?
Definitely. So they're amazing divers. Interestingly, they can't dive for very long, but they're really well adapted to kind of work quickly and grab the fish. They only eat the heads as well, which is quite strange to me. Yeah, I think the body would be the better part. But yeah, you could see in the footage the way he just flips upside down really smoothly, and he's back up within seconds, and he's caught his prey. I think another amazing adaptation of otters are their sense of hearing and how they can scope out the sound of water. So the otter, I think he didn't visit until about 2017, because it was that time my dad put in another waterfall. So the sound of running water was much louder, and that's when he started visiting. And there is a small stream. I've looked up on maps. I'd say it's roughly 500 meters away from my house, and a family friend, she's really into wildlife as well, and her husband's an ecologist, and he said that the otter may have been sort of living and hunting in that stream, and would have been able to find our pond from there. So I just thought that was amazing, the distance that they can go in the hunt for food and hearing the water. Also a badger. This summer we've caught a lot of footage of the badger, and he often every night is having a little drink from the pond, which is nice to see.
Cool. So we've got otters, badgers and hedgehogs, so three pretty good mammals to find around the pond.
Yeah, and we've also seen a lot of foxes. They like to drink from the pond.
That's amazing. So lots of mammals then. How about amphibians? What have we got amphibian wise?
Lots of frogs. We've seen the odd toad as well. Well, we've mainly heard them because they can be quite loud. And of course, they spawn in the spring, and then we get the tadpoles and the froglets, which are always lovely to see. And lots of newts. Like obviously, especially this time of year, they're breeding. So we've mainly had smooth newts and palmate newts. So that's great.
And how do you tell the difference between smooth and palmate newts?
With the females, they're almost pretty much indistinguishable. Definitely to myself, I'm not an expert, so I really do struggle to tell them apart. But the males during breeding season are quite easy to tell. The palmate newts males grow these big black webs on their back feet. So they're pretty distinguishable. And then the male smooth newts during the mating season get a crest that goes from sort of the back of their heads right down to their tail. So that's a good way to spot who's who.
What about bugs, mini beasts and that sort of thing hanging around the pond?
Yeah, I've seen so many. I mean, there's some I've never seen anywhere else, and I wish I knew what they were, but I'm not sure. We've seen lots of damselfly larvae, dragonfly larvae, and of course, the adult versions, the water boatman, pond skate. We've got ram's horn and the great pond snails. I know they're not insects, but just little mini beasts. Lots and lots of beetles, mosquito larvae, yeah, all sorts. Lots of flies, bees, moths and butterflies sort of go to the flowers at the edge of the pond as well. So yeah, lots of activity.
You mentioned plants. What sort of plants have you got around the pond to attract some of these mini beasts?
Yeah, so we've got marsh marigolds. Um, we've got large lilies at the side and irises, and our pond is right next to a bank, and that's just full of sort of ferns and all sorts of just wildflowers, and most people, I suppose, would think they're weeds, but they've just popped up. So yeah, it's great for attracting all the insects and pollinators.
Really important plants then. Lastly, I think we have to mention birds. What sort of birds have you had on the pond?
Yes, lots and lots of birds. Especially, I think if you're building a pond, it's really good, really important to have a shallow end as well as a deep end, if you can, because essentially the birds use that as a bird bath. So every day we see the wood pigeons in there, see lots of robins, magpies, even the odd like seagull, the herring gull. We did have a heron a few years back, and he visited for sort of 2 consecutive years. Again, ate all the fish, but that was amazing to see. Yeah,
And did he hang around for quite a long time then?
yeah. He, as I say, he kind of came. He was be back and forth spring and summer for 2 consecutive years, and you perhaps see him 2 or 3 times a week. Normally, sort of in the mornings and dusk, he'd visit.
So I just wondered if you could give us some advice for anyone who's thinking of putting in a wildlife pond. What sort of things should you consider? We've touched on the depth of the pond, but anything else to consider, do you think, when putting in a pond?
So it's important that you have aquatic plants that can provide shade for at least part of the pond, pretty much for the duration of the day, because a lot of animals prefer the sort of shadiness, and it helps to keep the temperature regulated. Also, try and use pebbles and just make little nooks and crannies for the animals to go into, especially newts. They like to sort of hide between pebbles and things. It doesn't have to be a massive pond to do those things. So I think they're sort of the main things I'd say.
Thank you. There's some really good tips. So coming towards the end now, we touched on mammals, bugs, mini beasts, fish, birds, amongst many other things. But I just wondered if you could summarise for us, again, just why ponds are so good for all these types of wildlife.
So of course the water is a massive draw because a lot of animals come to drink from it. It's a great place. Insects just flock to there, and that obviously then has a massive knock-on effect and attracts other animals. So lots of rodents, rats, mice, shrews, voles, they all kind of come and will feed on the insects. The birds also feed on the insects. And so, yeah, it's surprising how quick that can all happen, and the impact even, a small pond can make on increasing the biodiversity in a garden.
This has been so interesting. Rhia Chapple, thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob.
If you want to see more of what Rhia does, the link to her Instagram is on the screen. Do go and check out her posts. That's all I've got for you for today, but if you do like what you've heard and feel inspired to make your own garden pond, then later in the week I'll be showing you how to make a mini pond out of an old washing up bowl. I hope you can join me then. Until next time, bye for now.